That's right, everyone. Welcome to Rally FC. That's right, the Ghostwriter podcast, because who doesn't want a Ghostwriter podcast? That's right. My name is Clay Johnson, and today we're talking about Ghostwriter, but I'm not doing it alone. I am doing it with my friend, professional podcaster herself, Allie Glonek.
Hi.
How we doing, Allie?
I'm good. Pandemics suck.
They do quite a bit. Although I will say I'm glad that I get the opportunity to record with you. It's been quite a while.
I know. Literally months.
Yeah. I mean, that's not counting the aborted attempt that we had earlier in the year. It was a very fun conversation, but it went nowhere.
It did. It hit a wall real quick. It's beautiful because it's turned into this.
Absolutely. So, Allie, I have a question to ask you.
Oh, what's that?
Something that just runs with this podcast. So, how much do you hate me for asking you to watch this show?
In what context am I describing my hatred?
I mean, that's up to you, really.
Oh, well. At first, I literally rolled my eyes because I was like, Ghostwriter?
Yeah.
God damn it. And then I was like, okay, maybe I'm remembering it all wrong. And when I sat down to rewatch the episode, I was like, okay, now it's just pure nostalgia.
Yeah.
Now I like it.
Yeah. I will say, every episode, we goof, we tear apart, but there is something about this show that I really enjoy. I think it's really just kind of scratching that nostalgic itch for me. And, I can, like I said, I can totally get behind the fact that it's silly, it's cheesy, it's very much of its time. But yeah. I do think that it kind of holds up for its demographic. I mean, I wouldn't, ask, well, in normal circumstances, I wouldn't ask adults necessarily to watch this. But, if a kid was looking for something, it might be right up their alley.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it served its purpose well. Sure. And I think any adult going back to it now, it's literally going to be like everybody looking around like, wow, I remember when a computer literally was the size of like the Amazon boxes I'm ordering every day from my tiny little handheld phone.
Yep.
How niche, how nostalgic.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, you mentioned that you had actually seen this before. Did you watch it on its first run, or like how did you watch this?
So, this show ran from 92 to 95.
Yes.
I entered the world in 91.
Oh, okay.
So, I do have memory of this, and sure. I think it was probably me in elementary and middle school catching episodes here and there sure. on like PBS, like randomly on a weekend, or if I was at home sick.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I definitely caught it in its first run. I have no idea how it ran after that, because I think once I realized there were no new episodes, I just stopped watching. Of course, also, by the time it went off, it went off in 95, I would have been 14, something like that. 13 or 14. So, it was getting beyond my demographic anyway.
Yeah, definitely.
But, that's crazy. I will say, at least you saw this one, and not, I think apparently they tried to bring it back like a year after it ended, and that version only lasted like one season. Like, it wasn't very good, apparently.
Oh, well.
Though I've never seen it, so I don't know. There might be people out there with some nostalgia for it. But that's not the show that we're talking about. We're talking about this one, the original Ghostwriter. And specifically, we are talking about story arc number 3, To Catch a Creep.
Yeah.
Very, very fun name for a story here. And just to kind of give a bit of background as to what this episode is about, basically Alex is running for class president of his middle school, Hurston Middle School, as they've mentioned several times. And while he is running, somebody keeps putting up posters basically slandering him, saying embarrassing things about him, like he sleeps with a nightlight, he cries over fried chicken, silly things like that.
A smear campaign.
Yes,
see?
A smear campaign. And the team tries to figure out who is sullying Alex's good name. And I have to say, okay, so this normally when I'm watching these and I'm taking notes, like I will usually watch them twice. Like I'll watch it once to take notes, and I'll watch it another time, like just to kind of get the episode. Because a lot of times when I'm taking notes, I might miss things. But when I was watching this to take notes, the most I will ever write of a single episode is like one little small notebook page. Mm-hmm. It's just a small little notebook I've got here. And the thing is, though, this opening scene, I filled up almost an entire half page in just this first scene. Because... Well,
I have a lot of opinions about the first scene.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you revisit this whole series...
Yeah.
You take a step back and you go, wow, all these guys went to Juilliard, didn't they? How riveting the performances.
Yeah. I will say, though, about this first scene, it is the school assembly, I guess, announcing the candidates. And it looks like sheer anarchy. Because you've just got...
Right.
You've got these kids, like, honestly, it looks less like a school assembly and more a wrestling event in the late 90s. Like, there are signs all over the place. People are screaming. There are people on stage randomly dancing for no reason. Okay, it's insane.
That is a very, very important point that we need to focus on. Why is there a 3-second clip of 3 kids doing like the Running Man?
Yeah, I don't get. I mean,
they aren't running. Like, well, LOL, they're doing the Running Man, and it's a running election. Okay, now that makes sense, and that's really good. But
yeah,
in the moment, you're like, what director said, "All right, you and you go ahead and get on the can you do the Running Man? Yeah, 5 solid seconds, the Running Man. Everybody else be about 3 feet apart from each other." Dancing. There's probably not music, but just make it up in your head. Yeah. Oh, everybody has a different beat? Good.
Go
feels
with
like
that.
Let's do
yes.
it. Like,
I will say, like, it took me the last watch to realize that one of those kids is that Jeffrey kid, the one that his slogan is, I am one of you. So he basically tries to do everything everybody else does. And so I think that was the reason for the dancing, but it took me so long to realize that he was even up there that it really meant nothing.
Yes. And like, yeah, the direction of this cinematic piece is questionable.
To say the least. Oh, yeah. I'm
trying to be nice in the negativity and disappointment that this pandemic has plagued me with. So, pardon.
No, you're fine. Yeah, no, nobody is even going to pretend that Ghostwriter was the height of any sort of art form in any way. Every single episode we say the word contrived because these plots are so forced and so contrived. But,
I will say.
Yeah, go ahead.
So clearly from the beginning, we know the premise of the show is like, solve a mystery and learn your grammar, kids.
Yeah.
So as soon as they're like, oh, it's a campaign. Okay. Oh, we have 4 candidates. Okay. Mystery show. Got it. I'm probably going to be looking at the villain on stage. In the first scene, I correctly guessed the villain.
Yeah. Yeah.
However.
Because he's a Bond villain. But yeah.
Oh my God. At first I was like, he's either an annoying B character. I mean, he or she is an annoying B character, or they just don't have time for us not to get it. Or this is a little gift to all the kids at home that are like, I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, I will say that this is the first... this is not the first episode that Calvin is introduced. He was actually in the very first episode, but he was played by a different person. In this episode, and actually for the rest of the series, he's played by Joey Shea. So this is kind of the first, like... He was only in, like, 2 scenes in that first story, and he was really just on the side. So this is really the first time that we're really getting to know him. I will say, in later season or in later stories, he's definitely used as a red herring, because you just always assume that, well, Calvin's an ass. It's got to be Calvin. And this is one of the few times that it's actually Calvin.
So I guess that we're going to agree from here on out. We're going to acknowledge the fact that it is Calvin then.
Yeah, it's fine.
Oh, okay.
We're not trying. I mean, honestly, I figure anybody that is listening, of the 15 people that are, either they've already watched this or they have no intention to watch it and they just want to hear us make fun of it.
Oh, well, let me give you, how many? It was 100 minutes total.
Mm-hmm.
So... yeah, it's Calvin. He's a shithead.
Yeah, he is. I do want to break down a little bit more of this assembly, though, because we do have 4 kids campaigning for president. You've got Alex, who honestly, like, has been searching for kind of his default character. Mm-hmm. In the first episode, he was like, I'm a detective. I'm the greatest detective. Well, the thing is, now all the kids are detectives. So, and he's not any better than any of the rest of them. So that's not really a character anymore. In the last episode we saw, which was it was the second episode, but it was actually filmed first. They really didn't give him much of anything to do besides, hey, go get this. Hey, go talk to that person. He was really just the gopher. So in this one, they've got him running for class president. His slogan is the people's choice. And I will say, after this whole smear campaign comes out, he does finally find what his character is. He's a jerk. Because every single thing that happens, he jumps to conclusions. He accuses every single person that is even possibly a suspect, until Calvin, not until the end. Did you notice that?
Yes, but I think with the writing that was gifted, I'm not sure that they were ever going to bring Calvin in for a scene until the one where they're taking him down and they're like, oh, you're doing something bad, are you? Yeah, don't tell anyone. Wait another 25 minutes to hear, oh, this is the bad thing you're doing. Yeah. Oh, okay. And then later, hey, confess. And he goes, okay. Like, Calvin is essentially like there for 4 minutes total.
Yeah, he's not used. I mean, he's used in the periphery in a couple more scenes, but there's not a whole lot there. But they don't make Alex. They don't show him in the best light in this episode, and I'm just like, oh, okay, so Alex is a jerk. That's good to know.
But isn't that the human quality in us all? And don't we need to learn that through social experiences like this?
Right. But then, okay, so we've got Jeffrey, whose campaign manager is Calvin, and like I said before, his whole slogan is "I am one of you." So basically, whatever group he's with, he dresses like. I mean, it's a typical kind of campaign strategy you would see in a television show, probably based on real campaign strategies that just way dumbed down.
Well, it's very like Reagan-y.
Sure. Sure.
Like I would say it's very reflective of like politics from like the early to mid 70s through the 80s. Like
sure.
They're literally just mirroring everything that we would have seen in the media,
right?
Which is kind of hilarious when you think about the fact that like the people writing this are 20 to 30 years older than the people playing it.
Oh, absolutely.
And so literally these kids are just like pawns at this point for these adults to play like, play pretend.
Yeah.
And like we hopefully teach you how to read and where to put your commas.
Yeah. It's a little painful sometimes to hear what has to be like a 30 or 40-year-old writer deciding what these kids think is cool. Yeah.
Yes, and it's
and putting their words in their mouths.
Yeah, when like Rob confronts them at the table later on, and then Jamal just looks at him and goes, you better sit down for this. What fucking middle schooler?
Okay. Here's the thing, though. That fits like, for Jamal, because what we've realized for Jamal's character is Jamal is a dork.
Is he?
He is a kind, likable, well-meaning dork.
I disagree.
I'm sorry. I've got, because if Carlton Banks was middle class, he would be Jamal Jenkins.
Okay, I will only
because Jamal is constantly talking about how cool he is and then doing and saying the dorkiest things. I mean, I'm not saying that he's unlikable or anything like that. I'm simply saying that he's a dork. There's nothing wrong with that.
Well,
he thinks he is way cooler than he is.
I don't know. I'm all Team Jamal. I think he's my favorite.
And that's fine. Like I said, that doesn't negate the fact that he's a dork. He's a kind, likable, well-meaning dork.
I just think from the 4 episodes I watched that my initial interpretations was Alex is a playboy and he's just trying to be cool and popular. And then you got Jamal and he's the actual cool one that knows what the fuck's going on. And he genuinely just like does what he wants. Like he wants to start karate because he thinks karate's cool. Cool, man. I don't know. Maybe this is me secretly coming to terms with the fact that I'm a dork because I will just fuck I want and I think it's cool and I just go for it. Then you have Lenny over there who's like, she's gifted a book by her dead mother and is like, this is lame. Lenny, you are lame. You are lame, child.
But she comes to terms with that after. It's just at first she's not certain about it. I think it was mostly just because it was like, it's a book.
Yes. Okay. Also, I have a spiel about Lenny's dad when we get there because that man cracked me up.
Okay. All right. I do real quick just want to. I mean, you've only got 2 other candidates. Nitu is just kind of there. She's just very nice. Her slogan is what I think it was: "Say Me Too, vote for Nitu."
Yes, which part of me was like, ooh, foreshadowing to the Me Too movement?
That's what I was thinking, too. I was like, oh, I'm not sure. I mean, not a whole lot there, but yeah.
It's changed over time, because definitely, like, it said Me Too, and I was like, oh, no, Me Too. What are we going to learn about you?
Yeah.
Who wronged you in the locker rooms?
And then we just find out that, she, is very nice. Slogan. She's just very nice. And then Janet, who at least in this first scene we learn very little about. We find out later that her sister actually was the president last year, and it's really funny because if you look at her campaign posters, it's a picture of her and her sister. So basically, she doesn't say a slogan, but basically her slogan is, "My sister was president, vote for me."
I mean, not to get too political right now, But I feel like that's also kind of what Biden's doing. He's like,
oh yeah,
my friend Barack.
yeah, Barack's my friend.
There.
Yeah,
vote for me. And we all go, well, fuck. Well, now we don't have a choice.
No, I mean, honestly, we just don't have a choice. But yeah.
I digress. Back to 1993.
All right. After the assembly, we get a scene of Alex basically talking to some sports teams. Apparently, the funding for sports has been cut at their schools, which I'm just saying right now, having been to a public school, no school is if they don't have funding for sports, they also have no arts, no anything else. Sports is the last thing they're going to cut. So if they're to the point of cutting sports, they've got nothing. They're done.
Yeah, I will say I did not attend a public school past the year 1999.
Okay.
And I remember the day we got a computer in the classroom. So when this whole plot line started with like, what are you going to do to save the sports, girl? Like my nice little 8th graders. I immediately was like, wait. If the adults who get the money and get to do what they will with the money can't figure it out, what people in their right mind are going to be like, we must turn to the student council for the answers, but we no longer know.
Yeah, that whole plot point, I was like, first of all, that's way too much to put on children. Second of all, you really think that they're going to figure this out when you can't? I mean, Janet's eventual plan, I'm like, that's a good plan. You're telling me the adults couldn't come up with that plan? That's honestly, ridiculous.
Let's be honest. Janet 2020, because
yeah,
I had ideas. I mean, honestly, she came around, and when they got to the point where she was like, "This is what I'm going to do." Oh, other spoiler alert: Janet wins. So when she gets
because
to her,
she ends up being the only one who has a plan.
Yeah, like she stands there and is just like, we're going to do bake sales. We're also going to do campaigning. I got local
parents are going to help out and local businesses.
Yeah, and I'm sitting there like, oh my gosh, she's brilliant. Oh my god. I'm like, I
Janet can save the world
because of Janet, who I kind of thought was a bitch. Oh, point made.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would have voted for Janet.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, especially by the end. I mean, we can talk about it more, but this whole, slander campaign really gets Alex off focus, and he doesn't come up with a plan. And apparently the other two never even thought of coming up with a plan, and Janet ended up being the only ones with a plan.
They've got to focus on their friendship and loyalty.
And
what?
And smiling very nice.
Yes. And making a video. Honestly, this is probably how BuzzFeed started in the end. That's all we're watching. All the companies that are running right now started.
Yeah.
From sweet little Ghostwriter.
Oh, geez. Oh, yeah. I mean, I can't tell you how many times that I watch this and I'm like, oh, yeah. I learned that from watching this show.
I will say too, and right after we leave the assembly, and then we're in the next scene where Alex is trying to come up with his campaign plan to turn into the office.
Yeah. And
they're like, you've only got 20 minutes. Firstly, why do we waste 5 to, no, not 5. I'm being not generous enough. We waste a solid 30 seconds writing a 4-word sentence on the chalkboard, and I was just sitting there like, wow.
Yeah. Well, because that's what this show is about. It's about reading and writing. Yeah. Oh, I know.
Also, how did it feel to see a chalkboard?
Oh, I know. It's been so long. I mean, they have dry erase boards now, so it's a similar setup, but.
I walked into a classroom that currently had a chalkboard. I think instinctively I would be like, oh no, is everyone okay? Is this owned by a cult out of Utah? Are you safe? Blink once if you aren't.
But yeah.
It felt so backwards for a second. I was like,
But something that I read later is that, okay, so there are two kids that come to talk to him about what are you going to do with the sports teams. The tall basketball player, you know who that was?
Mm-mm.
Do you know who Dule Hill is from Psych and West Wing?
Oh!
Yeah, that's Dule Hill. I will say it took me forever to realize that was Dule Hill because I'm used to him looking like average height, like my height. And I guess he just had a growth spurt because he looks like a tall basketball player.
That is so weird.
Yeah. But yeah, that was Dule Hill. And then, so he leaves. And then, like you said, Alex is trying to figure out, like, he's got to turn in this statement to the school paper so that he can announce his candidacy. Right. And he reads this statement that's real dumb. It's basically just like, I stand up for my friends, and I think all of you are my friends, so vote for me. And Lenny
Which really is kind of the equivalent of, I am one of you.
Yeah, it really is.
But just phrased less robotically.
Yeah. Lenny just says what we're all thinking.
That's not good enough, Alex.
Which, honestly, to me, is kind of the slogan of the whole episode. Because every time that something happens to Alex, he flies off the handle and he makes the wrong decision, and I just think...
That's not good enough, Alex.
Yeah. Pretty much. Also, he's so mean.
He really is. Okay, so... Okay.
But she's also like one of the better actors in the whole episode, and part of me is like, don't you shit on Blabby Gabby just because she tells it like it is.
Okay, yes, okay. First of all, you've said what I've been saying the whole time. Maytiana Morales as Gabby is one of the best actors in the entire show.
Yes.
Because she's the most natural, in my opinion, but she's also fun. She's just a lot of fun. But yeah, he goes off on his sister after he, like, okay, when they first figure out that there is a smear campaign, he suggests to Lenny and Jamal, oh, maybe it's Gabby, and they're like, no, Gabby would never do that to you. You're her brother. She likes you. She wants you to win. And so you feel like in that scene, he's at least like, okay, yeah. The very next scene, he's like, I know it was you, Blabby, blah, 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 blah. And I'm just like, my God, dude, you're just being an ass right now.
That's not good enough, Alex.
It's really not. Yeah. Just not good enough. But he also, in this scene, yells at Ghostwriter.
Seriously?
You know you gotta have problems if you're yelling at Ghostwriter. I'm just saying.
Well, now I really have problems because I know we're going to talk about the whole, what do we think Ghostwriter is?
And at the end.
I decided to go ahead and Google it. So now that I know what the intention of Ghostwriter is, that is even meaner, Alex. How dare you?
Okay. I will say, man, I should have told you not to do that because that is actually a bit that we do. But that's okay. We can deal with it later.
I just couldn't not know.
It's okay. It's all right.
I was also the kid who, like, as soon as they passed out the assigned reading books in school, everybody would, like, read the first page or they'd flip it over and read the back, and I would read the last two paragraphs and be like, oh, I know what happens, bitches. And then I would somehow convince myself, like, I get it. I see where we're going. I don't really need to now.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so yeah, he does that scene where Alex does that scene where he yells at Ghostwriter, and then he calms down. They figure out his statement and all that good stuff, and then while they're outside, he remembers, oh yeah, I yelled at Ghostwriter and I told him not now, and he runs back inside. I'm like, Ghostwriter's not waiting for you at the chalkboard.
Yeah,
you could literally just write him a note. I'm sorry. I will say, though, it totally, that was not a great scene for Alex or David Lopez, the kid portraying Alex, because I realized, ooh, you should not be reading ADR because it was extremely stilted. It was like, I'm sorry, Ghostwriter, you are my friend. I'm like, ooh, Ooh, need a better read, kid. Need a better read.
However, and also, the quote is "gracias." That's in there.
Oh, right.
He's
Yeah.
Spanish. Because I will say, one of my favorite things about this whole freaking series is how diverse it is.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it's the best.
I don't think it's even trying to be diverse out of, like, I don't think it's as intentional, like, as it is now that people are attending to the issues that are happening in casting and writing. And
I mean, I will say that probably when they were casting, it was like, okay, we're in New York City. We do want to have a diverse cast. I think that they probably did, like, definitely want, certain ethnicities represented. But when it comes to in terms of representing them within the show, it's very natural. Yeah, the bilingual nature of the Fernandez. Forgot their name for a second. Of the Fernandez family, yeah, it's one of my favorite things.
Yeah, especially that scene when he's on the bed and he's like, "My tummy hurts," and she's like, "Oh, tu estómago."
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh, this is really sweet." Also, bless them for speaking it just slowly and I think overtly enunciated for the sake of like all the little American kids at home being like, "Me llamo Allie."
Right. But not in a way that it felt awkward or, insincere. Like it still felt very real and natural, but yes, in a way that could definitely be understood to all of us gringos.
Which also is really kind of hilarious too when you think about we know about Ghostwriter. Like you and I know who Ghostwriter is. So the fact that like Ghostwriter is advanced enough in the state that he's in to also know Spanish and repeat it back to him, I think that's kind of adorable.
I mean, he does say gracias means thanks,
Right.
But yeah, he uses the language back to him. Yeah.
I just thought that was so cute.
Oh, there was a really weird scene. So we're getting towards the end of part 1, and I'm gonna need to make this quicker. But there's a weird scene when Jamal and Lenny are apparently at Jamal's house. They don't really explain a whole lot. Like, this scene is just kind of like sitting here, like kind of comes out of nowhere. There's no real setup for it, and nothing really comes of it. But it's the scene where Lenny basically asks Ghostwriter, how can I help Alex and all that kind of good stuff. But before she goes, she's in Jamal's house, and she's like telling him, "Bring me cookies," and all this kind of stuff. But she goes, and I think Ghostwriter like writes on the computer. Yes. And before she sits down, she looks around and she goes, "I wonder if Jamal will mind." And I'm like, okay, I guess they're doing that as like kids should ask permission before they use their friends' things or whatever. But they say it in a way that it seems like it's going to be a big deal, like it's going to be a plot point, and then it's never mentioned again. It was so weird.
Yeah, I think we've also covered the fact that this series definitely likes to take moments to be like, I'm going to think a thought.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
I think I'll think a little more of the thought.
Yeah. It's PBS. It's educational. It's all about, what you should do and things like that. I was like, I don't really, if you want to, you can just, because in the past, she has used the computer while Jamal's been in the room, and it's never been a thing said between them. Maybe it was because, he's out of the room. I can't ask. It felt really awkward and unnecessary.
Yeah, I think they were just taking a moment of like moral responsibility. Like, Lenny, shouldn't you ask your friend? And Lenny's conscience says, yes. However, time says, I'm going to go ahead and do this because he's going to make me cookies and he's going to get me milk. But you know what? Make it a chocolate. Also, Lenny's a little bitch, too. Barking at her friend in his own home.
Well, I mean, it's his house. He's the one getting the snacks and everything.
Yeah, but I'm sorry. I'm from a southern home, and when you go to somebody's house, you say yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, yes, sir, no, sir, thank you, please, yes, no, yeah, yes, ma'am.
And this is the exact opposite of that. This is New York City.
It's in heathen New York City.
But yeah, I just, the way that it was brought up, I half expected Jamal to like charge into the room and say, "Get off my computer! What are you doing?" But and that honestly, wouldn't be Jamal. That would be Alex, which would cause us all to say,
"That's not good enough, Alex."
Yes. I will say too, I thought just coming in, because this is a pretty early scene, that like, because I hadn't watched anything else but the episode I was watching in so long, sure. I was like, wait, do Lenny and Jamal have beef? What's going on? This is Lenny, I'm scared now. Oh, this means nothing? Great. All right, cool. Moving on.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. Yeah, so around this time is when we are introduced to a new character. You mentioned him earlier, Rob, who is, when we first meet him, he's just a kid in the computer room, and he happens to have printed off paper that has like a little weird graphic or something in the top that's got the same as the smear campaign flyers.
Right.
Which honestly really just says that it was printed from the same paper as the campaign flyers in the school, which, first of all, who was making smear campaign flyers and then printing them off at the school? You're just asking to get caught.
Yes.
But
also, I love Lenny's description. She's like, it looks like in comic books when superheroes say bad things.
Yeah.
You're like,
well, it says,
yeah,
she's like,
what kind of weird copyright is this?
Yeah. She's like, when they get upset or when they get mad, I'm like, Lenny, it's when they're cursing. That's what that means. But so they meet him, and instantly they are, I will say, of all of the good habits that this show enforces, one of the worst ones is it teaches you to be super suspicious of random strangers.
Yeah. Well, I will say too, like, these kids are in New York City, so I think from the time they come out of the birth canal, people are like, yo, don't talk to strangers. But like, really, don't talk to strangers.
Although we'll find in later episodes that they should have been more suspicious of random strangers rather than, just random new kids at the school. But anyway, I was just like, they're like, what is he doing here? Why is he here so late? I'm like, yes, a student using school equipment. How dare he?
Yes.
It's just really silly. I mean, obviously they're trying to up this tension for a character that we don't know, that we haven't met yet.
Right.
But we will find out later, actually, that Ghostwriter thinks he's cool because Ghostwriter writes to him. Although I thought it was really weird that the first thing that he wrote that Alex or that Rob could see was "Goodbye, Jamal."
Right.
Which was just confusing to him. And then, of course, he wrote "Hello, Rob."
Mm-hmm. I don't know if this is getting picked up on the microphone, but my cat has entered my lap and she is purring up a storm. So let me know because I don't have headphones in.
I can't hear it.
Okay, good.
Yeah, no, I think it's fine.
Yeah, I thought that was odd too. But I really loved the exchange when, like, Rob is then at his own computer, or he's in the lab later, and he's like, what are floating letters or something like that? And I'm like, oh my God, we didn't have Google.
No, well, see, that's the thing. He's typing it in like he's looking it up on Google, but he's literally just like writing it on the page.
Right. It's the equivalent of like Word, which is also kind of hilarious that it's like, what do you think was going to happen, dude? I don't even think like, was Encarta even a thing at that point?
Well, I think what it was, because for us, we immediately think, oh, guy writing in words, he's looking it up. He's Googling it. They didn't have that back then. The thing is that we have to remember, Rob's a writer, So I think, I can't remember what he wrote after that, but I think he was just kind of trying to get out his thoughts of what he saw. And he wasn't really trying to, like, get an answer. He was just, like, being creative.
It's so funny and it's so weird too.
Yeah. What was your thoughts on Rob? Because this is the first time that we have ever seen him. I will say that up until this point, three story arcs in, they have added a team member every single time. So
my very first thought was, oh, we're going with the new kid trope. Okay, cool. He's probably going to become one of the gang.
Sure.
Oh, look. He's now one of the gang.
Yeah. Although, I will say, I really like Rob because, number one, I think that of all of them, besides Gabby, he's the next most naturalistic.
Yes.
And I also like the fact that he kind of doesn't jump in, the fact that he kind of holds back, because the whole thing with him is, number one, the very first time that he actually meets any of them, they're accusing him of shit. So I kind of understand why he wouldn't want to immediately be their friend, but even towards the end of the episode when he starts helping them more and doing more with them, you can tell he's very much an introvert, very much, he's that creative, introverted type, and he doesn't have any issues with them, but you can tell that he's hesitant to just jump into a group. And I like that.
He's important and he's wonderful because he's such a balance and a complement to all the other energies that are already a part of the group.
Absolutely.
Like, we've got Alex, who's like, this kind of
Jerk.
Archetypal, bold, kind of, he's a ladies' man, he's popular, if this is the Breakfast Club, he's
Emilio Estevez.
Thank you. I was going to say Mario, and I was like, that is not right.
No.
And then
Mario Lopez.
Whole new person. But then at the same time, I think he's kind of like the Allie Sheedy.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's like, you need that sensitive nature.
Yeah.
Because I think we've got Jamal, who I still kind of think Jamal's like kind of the leader.
I mean, honestly, they don't really have a leader, but he's kind of the de facto. He was the very first one to see Ghostwriter, so he is kind of. In that
he's like the nucleus of the group.
Yeah, he and Lenny are kind of both the de facto because they saw him first. They were the first ones kind of to make contact with Ghostwriter together. And honestly, most of the time that they get together, they either meet at Jamal or Lenny's place. I think in this episode is one of the few times that we see Alex call a rally.
I do love how they call them rallies with their letters. I think that's the cutest thing.
Yeah. So
because
does that make sense to you? Like calling a get together a rally?
Yeah, well, I think because of the nature of their, I was going to say their practice. Like, I don't know if you can hear my cat rustling in the background now. She's in a box full of tissue paper. But
no, she's fine.
Because, the inherent nature of their group is like friendship and solving crime. It, to me, makes sense that they're like, we're going to call a rally because we've got to rally together and solve this shit.
Yeah.
It's like, I love this kind of revolutionary little group of people. Like, how wonderful and innocent, and also, I don't know, revolutionary is just like the best word for it, I think. Like, what kids are sitting there like, I'm going to bring justice to the world in the heart of New York City.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it makes sense. I think it's a wonderful idea.
All right. Okay, so you brought him up earlier. Let's talk a bit about Lenny's dad. Because he is one of, I think, 2 parents that we see in this story arc. We see we see
Alex's mom
Alex and Gabby's mom, Mrs. Fernandez, played by Cordelia Gonzalez, which honestly we didn't see Mr. Fernandez in this, but I love both of the Fernandez parents. They're probably my favorite of the parents. They're just they're great, but we do get Lenny's dad, Max Frazier, played by Richard Cox. And when we first see him in this episode, he's partying with 5 12-year-olds.
I just feel like that man, he was at Studio 54. Like, I feel like he did some hard drugs. He probably had coke on him at all times. Like, later on when he's like, gotta go to rehearsal, I'm like, ooh, musician, actor, what are we?
Yeah, he is a musician, yeah. Well, okay, so
makes sense. Long, luscious hair.
Yeah, in the first episode, okay, in the original pilot that they shot, all we saw of Lenny's apartment was Lenny in this big apartment with all these musical instruments and no parents. So it really looked like Lenny was just living the bohemian lifestyle all by herself.
I mean, did you see her collection of berets through these 4-part series? I would have fucking believed it. Also, you had a beret at one point that literally I could fit like both my ass cheeks in at this age of my life.
Okay. We're gonna talk about Lenny's hats in just a little bit. I
can't wait.
Yeah. But I mean, you wanted to talk about Lenny's dad. I will say in the second pilot, the first story arc that we watched, I really like them together. Their chemistry was still a little awkward at that point. I feel like in this episode it really came together, and I really liked him in this episode.
Having no other experience with him aside from these episodes, he kind of cracked me up. Just from the get-go, like, you see that dance scene, and then the first line that he gives after that dance scene, because, again, it's a classic one of those, let's make this scene go on way too fucking long.
Which is kind of the calling card of this show, yeah.
I mean, yeah. Like, Ghostwriter, what's his favorite piece of a punctuation? Just an ellipses. We just keep holding and going. So, the thing that fucking kills me about him, though, is, like, this man is dancing so hardcore.
Yeah.
And then the first line that he gets to utter is when he sits down to talk to one of the kids, and literally he's like, yeah, okay. And I was like, well, you really committed, didn't you? Did you know Meisner? Is that part of your trip? You got a little Stanislavski in there?
He really comes off like he's just the old dude partying with a bunch of kids.
Yeah, but, like, he's feeling it, man.
Oh, yeah.
Also, I love Jamal again in this scene is the just absolute scene stealer. His commitment to this is where I will give you that he reminds me of Carlton, but only because his dance is so committed, so energetic, and so sharp, and I loved it. Couldn't stop watching.
Oh, geez. But, I mean, in this one, okay, so in the previous story arcs that we've watched, there's really only been, like, one set story that just kind of was the main driving force for all 4 episodes. In this story arc, they have started to basically per episode, and really only in, like, episode 2 and 3, there will be a small B plot. In part 2... it was the giving the book to Lenny, the Harriet the Spy, kind of dealing with, Lenny's mom, because they haven't really been explicit before about what was going on with Lenny's mom, but in this one we get, okay, mom passed when she was young, all this kind of stuff. How did you feel about that B plot?
Well, as the child of a dead person,
I
can tell you, firstly, side note, one of my favorite TikToks of all fucking time is this one with this kid coming into the room, and it's like kids with divorced parents, and this kid's like, like showing off. And then the next one's something crazy like kids with, I don't know, some other like escalation of like shitty parents. And then the last one is like the most intense like beat drop, and it's like kids with dead parents. And it's like just this rock star comedian moment. It's so fucking funny. That's exactly how I feel about it. But you know what? Trauma makes you funny. So
it doesn't hurt.
As the field of a corpse, what I can say is I thought this was a trash scene.
Really?
If you were trying to connect to children that have lost a parent. Because you sit there and she's just like, ew, a book. And he's like, honey, it was your mom. She wanted you to have it. And she's just like, okay. And I was like, oh, okay. Because at this point she's like 12, which understandably you're developmentally not even quite there to process grief. Like, I get that. I even had friends when I was in elementary school who like lost parents while we were in school. So like, you know, the whole grade, because we had 30 kids, the whole grade at that point, you know, had to kind of go through a day or so of like, this is how you talk to your friend when something crazy happens. They might not feel good for a while. So I've kind of seen that after effect too. And kids do shut down sometimes. Like they do kind of go like, whatever. Because, you know, they barely have a concept of life and now they're smacked with death. So cool. I get it. But the writing with it was just crap. And I thought it was so funny how like Lenny's just like, whatever, Harriet the Spy. And then in the next scene when they address it and she's like actively reading the book because she caught her dad reading it. So it made her open it and see that like it was her mother's actual copy when she was her age. Cute. I love that. But like when she sees her dad laughing at it, first of all, let us all revisit Harriet the Spy, the beautiful movie with Michelle Trachtenberg and Rosie O'Donnell, because that was cinematic gold. I loved that movie so much. And it was tragic and traumatic and heartbreaking, which is why this dark little kid ate it up. The fact that she's sitting there and he was sitting there when they were individually reading it and they're both just like I was like, what are you on the first page? Like, this is not a haha book at all. All of her friends, she gets ostracized. She has to literally rebuild her life. Her parents get a divorce. She loses her favorite nanny. What the fuck are you laughing at? I did not agree with their acting choices.
Wow.
Or the writing, which makes me think the writers didn't even read Harriet the Spy.
Unless
I mean, Nickelodeon just made it really fucking dark. I didn't read it either. I didn't even know it was a book until I watched the show.
I was going to say, I did not. I have not read the book. I think I may have seen the movie once, but
so good.
I mean, you know, I was an idiot kid. I didn't connect with it at the time, but I will say there are a couple of scenes in which they make a laughing choice that I'm like, I'm not sure if that was the choice here. Like,
exactly.
Okay, there's the scene.
Kind of uncomfortable.
Yeah, there's the scene where they've got there's a new smear campaign poster that says that Alex cries over fried chicken, and he recounts the story of he had a pet chicken that his grandmother accidentally cooked. Yes, and when he tells this story, Jamal and Lenny's response is to laugh. And I was like, what is wrong with you kids? It's like, are you guys Tommy Wiseau? Great story, Mark. It's like, what is going on here?
In their defense, I have a dark tale to tell.
Oh, jeez.
I will never forget this. A classmate in college opened up to me in a group setting, mind you. Sure. And I don't know if you've ever been told a story that made you so uncomfortable that all you can do is laugh.
Sure.
Because I was recounted a story of my classmate's sibling who, it still makes me so uncomfortable. It's funny. Accidentally killed their cat. because the cat jumped in the dryer when they were loading it, and she turned it on.
Oh no.
And now, mind you, I am a cat owner, and that every time I go to do my laundry, that story has stuck with me, and I literally make sure she's nowhere near me, and I check the dryer before I turn it on. Absolutely. I know she's not in there, but I will check. And I, in that moment, was like, okay, guys, I get it, but I think your motivation needs to be discomfort.
I was about to say, that was not uncomfortable laughter. Like, I understand the uncomfortable laughter thing. Yeah.
Yes. There are a few times where you can tell, too, that the director was like, hey, kids, we need you to laugh at this point. And all the kids are literally like, ha, 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 ha.
Honestly, yeah. There was, I think, in that same scene, there were kids, like, up in a window laughing. Yeah. I loved that. I was like, because it's so insincere and so just out of nowhere. And there's literally, like, some of the kids are just like, ha, 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 ha. But there is one kid that is totally getting into it. And he's like, ha, 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 ha. And it's just like, that kid. Pay that kid extra. He's going for it.
Featured. He's a featured background.
Yes. Absolutely.
Like, he fucking committed. He was like, "Oh, I get this shit. I'm the shit kid."
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm the jerk. I can do this. But yeah. I mean, honestly, as far as the Harriet the Spy thing goes, I haven't read it. I don't know. Maybe the book in places is funnier. I will say, like, in the bits that they're talking about, he is talking about her, like, you know, pulling pranks and doing stuff like that. So maybe it was like specific parts. I will say, though, there were moments in that I was like, okay, I'm sorry. Did we just shift? Are we still watching Ghostwriter, or is this somehow become Reading Rainbow?
Because I kind of felt the same.
And in the sky.
When you start watching the clips on YouTube and they play, like, you know, the old promos they did where it had, like, the kid, like, puts on the hat, it's Treasure Island, and then they go into, like, the Nike ad.
Yeah.
I was watching that, and I was like, wait, is this Reading Rainbow? Wait, did I click the wrong thing? And then as soon as I saw Ghostwriter come on, because, you know, he's essentially, like, the snitch from Harry Potter, like, flitting across the field or a screen.
Yeah,
and I was like, wait, what is this, the rainbow thing?
Yeah.
And I was just like, did he send me the right link? Which, admittedly, I also hated Reading Rainbow. I did not like PBS. I felt, as a small child who was very egotistical and felt much smarter than I actually was, I felt like public broadcasting was very condescending to my intellect.
Sure.
Which is also why I refuse to watch Sesame Street.
Oh, wow. See, I loved Sesame Street as a kid.
I was an asshole, is what I'm saying.
I will say, I actually, her initial, like, just kind of sloughing it off action, I didn't really think that much about. I did like the scene of them together actually talking about it. I mean, granted, my dad died when I was an adult, so that's, you know, a different situation. But I actually, at the very least, liked the dad in that moment. Whether or not the way that they interacted worked, I did wonder, and maybe you can give me your take on this. There's a bit when, I mean, like you said, when we reveal that it's, you know, it was her mom's book. There's that scene where she looks at her mom's name and she touches it and she goes, "Hi, Mom." Was that sweet or was that just corny?
No, I thought that was really, really sweet.
Okay.
To me, at least.
Sure. No, like, I liked it too, but for like half a second, I was like, was that too much? Because I liked it, but I'm a little sappy.
I think because she was so young, and like you kind of get the impression that she didn't get to know her mom even.
I was about to say, it seems like she was very young when her mom died.
Yeah, but like, I don't know about you, but like in my grief processing, like I have pictures of my dad around my house now, and like my entire life, even through college, I was not that kid who like put up pictures of their friends on their wall and stuff. Like I just didn't do that. I didn't care. And so for me to like actively put pictures of my family up in my house as an adult, I was like, ooh, I'm maturing. And like, if I walk by the picture, sometimes I'll be like, hi, Dad. And like, just like chit chat, just let it be. So to me, it's part of the process. It's still connecting. And,
Sure.
I could run off on a tangent about like what it means once they pass, whether you're talking to something or you're not. But I think regardless of what you're talking to, you're still expressing that connection. So to me, it's sweet. And I think it also shows a really healthy way to deal with grief. So that if kids were at home that did not have parents, see this girl sitting there, like she's going as far as to speak out loud to her, but also to like touch her.
Yeah.
And I think that's beautiful. And it sends the message that like, that's okay. Like you can do things that, a quote unquote sane person might think is weird.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, I really think that they did normalize it. Like her obvious desire to want to connect with something that her mom did when she was her age. I liked that.
Yeah, I think that was of the full 100 minutes, I thought that was probably the most genuine and sincere and like humanist moment of all.
Sure. All right, well then going into our second B plot, which is Jamal and Gabby taking karate lessons, which this whole thing was really to, once again, display that Jamal's a dork. Because his whole thing was so ridiculous. The weird like kung fu sound effects that he was doing and all that kind of stuff.
Whoever on the editing side was like, do you guys actually want to add sounds when he kicks and shit? And the other guy had to be like, yeah, man, do it.
Do it.
Like,
yeah.
And make it unnaturally loud. Like, yes. Exactly. Like, it literally is the same thing as, like, whipping a plastic sword in the air. And I was just like, yes. Make it more.
But then, of course, the whole point of the scene is that, Jamal's a little proud, and Gabby's a little uncontrolled, and Gabby kicks his ass in a sparring scene.
Right. Which I also thought he's comical to me, like not his character. I mean, of course he's adorable and cute and funny,
sure.
But like the actor himself, I think he's so wonderfully expressive and silly.
Oh yeah. Okay.
I think if he was a kid in today's acting education, like he would be so good, such like the comedic relief.
Yeah.
Like I think his instincts are there because like that like side eye that he shoots her, I was like, he's got it.
Yeah. Oh, I mean,
he's got the scene.
I will say, I think for the most part, all of the actors are fun and enjoyable in their own way. We
have trouble with pacing.
Huh? Oh, sure. Oh, absolutely. I mean, and a lot of that is the structure of the show because they're, the whole point is, teaching the kids writing. So they take 10 minutes to show them writing something down. Yeah, I mean, maybe not the best decision, like from a story standpoint, but in an educational show, you're making decisions of what's more important. I will say though,
gotten up off of my chair, walked to the television, and fast forwarded my VCR. If this was in real time.
Sure. I will say, though, something that I realized about this karate setup, like, immediately, most of the time when they have shows set in New York, they are in places that are way too big. Like, like Lenny's apartment would probably not nearly be that big. But for this karate class, it is in a closet. And I'm like, first of all, you have way too many students for this amount of room for a karate class. There's no room for anybody to do anything without hitting each other. And also, the teacher was standing in the middle of all the students because he had nowhere to stand in front of them.
I thought that was so funny because to me, it clearly was like they built this set and then they were like, "Oh fuck,
Yeah, absolutely.
fuck!"
It's like,
Just
oh, they
everybody
didn't think this
circle
through.
around him.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
I will say that in a few story arcs, they're going to be using like a community center, which I think is where they were doing this. And I mean, I don't know, I haven't looked it up, but they may have actually been using a real community center to film this in. And I think it was just they realized that while all their film set up, they really actually didn't have enough room to do a real karate setup.
I read that any interior scene is on a studio stage.
Okay.
And then all outdoor scenes are actually in the city that it's played, which I think it was called like Fort Greene or something.
Fort Greene, yeah.
Yeah.
Fort Greene
So,
in Brooklyn.
Yeah, and it was really cool too because I was reading like the producers when they were scouting and everything, like the creative team was basically like, we're gonna make this real, we're gonna do it. If we're outside, we're gonna be in Fort Greene, like, and they said they wanted intentionally to choose the most diverse neighborhood that they could find that was also safe. Is
Sure.
basically the subtext of what I read, and I was like, that's kind of beautiful.
Yeah.
Approved.
You get that Allie stamp. Okay, so yeah, one thing that we didn't mention about the plot is, okay, so we eventually discover that it is Cal, which I mean, aside from the fact that he is like the most arch character there, and it's like he's just screams bad guy. If you look at the posters, it's really actually kind of hard to tell from far away the difference between the Jeffrey posters and the Alex smear posters because they're printed on the same paper.
I thought the exact same thing. And part of me was like, either the props department found a sale and they just went with it, or they were trying to feed us that hint, which part of me is like, I don't think they ever even mentioned that.
No, they never say that because all of the other kids' flyers are on different colors. They look completely different, but the posters for Jeffrey and the smear posters, they're on the same color paper. They're, made a very similar way. And also, they say several times that Calvin owns a party store. And who else is going to have the means to make these posters that look the way that they do? Because it's using like a very rudimentary version of like Photoshop. And I'm like, none of these others look like this. I will say, though, something that made me chuckle a little bit in that opening scene is if you look at the posters for Jeffrey, they obviously used the kid's headshot.
Oh, they did it on all of them. Did you see when they pull up, like when they use the picture when they're like, all right, kids, pull out your notebooks. We're going to put down who's who.
Yeah.
And they're going over each of the suspects, which are all of the candidates. Like the girl who plays Janet, she's got like this smoldering like head chin tilted down, bright eyes, intense cheekbones. Like she looks like she's 18 in her headshot when she's like 13.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what's weird? You don't play that on. It just doesn't pick up on a camcorder like it does on a photo taker.
A photo taker, yes.
A photo taker. It was the 90s. We had different terms back then.
Different technologies. Okay, so I do want to talk about Calvin because, like we said, this kid is so arch. I mean, such
a good little actor, though. He's my favorite for that reason.
Yeah. Okay. So, in the first episode that we saw him in, he was played by a different actor, but definitely set up the whole idea that this kid is a snot. He's an ass. He's full of himself. In that, we were also introduced to his parrot Attila and his mom, who basically would not shut up about how great Calvin was, which is something that comes into play in this episode. But like I said, he's being played by a different kid now. And while it's a different Like there's a difference in the way that he's playing him. He's just as hateable. Like, never wanted to punch a 12-year-old so hard in my life. Like, he's just, but in this, he's almost playing like I said, he's playing like a Bond villain. Because, like, okay, I do want to play this clip because just the way that he lays out this plan is just insane for a child playing a villain. I just want to hear this real quick.
You were always bragging about how are you going to run for president. Always so sure you'd win. I couldn't just let you run my school, now could I?
I was ahead until you came along.
Okay, look.
And that's when I had to stop you. Mr. Popularity. And I came up with the perfect plan. Everybody knows you have 1 million pen pals. My cousin Catherine owed me a favor and the rest was misery.
If it mattered to you so much, why didn't you just run for president yourself?
Alex. I don't care about winning. I just don't want you to win.
That is some messed up Joker shit right there. I
fucking loved that monologue.
Oh, it's great. It's great because he's not only is he like, arch and evil, but he's playing the chaos agent. He doesn't care about. Yeah. I think the only reason that he was a campaign manager and that he got, because I think that was his first plan, and when Jeffrey didn't seem to be necessarily cutting it, he did this other thing, but I don't think he just didn't want Alex to win, which is his whole thing. And I mean, we haven't really talked about it, but he gets his cousin to pretend to be Alex's friend and be his pen pal to dig up dirt. I mean, it's really convoluted, but that's some dark shit.
Here's my thought too, just logistically. When I was 6, my sister was 16, and I remember she had a pen pal in like Australia or something.
Okay.
Very common back then.
Sure.
When you were like, I need a friend, but I also want to be cultured. And today we just go on like, I don't know, the internet. Yeah. And so how the fuck did he even get Catherine and him linked? Because like, I know my sister went through like a pen pal matching thing that the school provided that was like super cool, that the schools in Australia did, like some weird shit. So part of me is like, this kid is an evil genius. I respect him for his organizational skills. He's going to have a great career in politics. I can't wait to see what companies he runs. Honestly, oh my God, he might be baby Jeff Bezos.
Oh. Jeez. I mean, he really comes across as like a Lex Luthor type.
I love it.
But yeah, I will say, I wondered, I was like, okay, so was Catherine already Alex's pen pal? Because yeah, you're right. Like, unless like Catherine somehow had his information, I don't know how they became pen pals.
It just doesn't make sense. It's just convenient for the plot.
Yeah.
But
oh, absolutely.
Yeah, that cracked me up though.
Sure.
The whole monologue, because first of all, it is delivered so amazingly.
Oh yeah,
that kid is talented.
It's cold.
Yeah, and it's also like he is so clearly aware of his motive from the beginning of this, like the 4-part series to the end.
Oh yeah.
Whereas like the other kids are just kind of like beep boop, here I am existing in this world, beep boop, oh hey Ghostwriter, like it's very just like waka waka. But then Calvin's like, hi, I'm here to fuck shit up.
Yeah.
And I love like the dynamic too, because he's not all cutesy and bebopy.
No.
Like he's a little shit.
No.
And you like, it sounds awful, but you need that in life, okay? We need shitty people in life to give us a little spice. Well, give me a little razzle dazzle.
Certainly in narrative structures, it spices things up. I mean, I don't know that I would ever want to meet him as a real life person being like that, but on a television show, he's very entertaining.
Yeah.
Okay, so is there anything else that you wanted to talk about this episode?
I know I've already ruined it. I'm just so excited to talk about who Ghostwriter is.
Okay, all right. Well, first, before we get to that, let us real quick just talk about. There are a couple of segments. So first of all, who is your top suspect? The character that you enjoyed the most, or was was the best? You think?
I mean, best. Oh gosh. I really do love Calvin just because that kid is so talented.
Yeah.
And I think it's very much a testament to like, you can take shitty writing, and if you're a good actor, then you can make it good and compelling and interesting. Sure. And whereas like some people that are kind of mediocre will take mediocre writing and it will become trash. So I really did love him. Like when he was on, I was super engaged. And to me, that is wonderful. I also, though, I really loved Rob because he is so different and he plays it so well. And like, I don't know if we want to jump ahead to like the end when he kind of gets assimilated into the group, but like,
I mean, anything else about the episodes that you want to talk about? Because otherwise we're kind of done talking about them.
I love at the end when they're like, we really like him. We should let him join our little group. And he's like, nah, I'm kind of a loner, deuces. Yeah. And it's like,
he kind of holds them off for a bit.
Because you've always felt like a loner? Or are you a loner because people told you you're a loner? Or is this a choice? What's going on? And then he sees the message from Ghostwriter that's basically like, don't be a dick. Open up to friends. And so he's kind of like, okay, Ghostwriter. And it's just like, look how sweet. And like you just see those wonderful levels of this kid who is like, not to trash the main three, but I'm sorry, Alex, I don't really see your problems and I don't really enjoy how you talk to anyone. Like, I'm pretty sure if Alex grows up and he's existing right now, he's a shitty fucking tipper and he's probably not wearing a mask.
That's not good enough, Alex.
Exactly. So, and then Lenny, like, I think honestly, I feel like Lenny kind of grew up to be what's her face on Seinfeld, Julia Louis-Dreyfus.
Well, Blaise Bardal is actually, she's a voice artist. She does a lot of voiceovers and stuff like that.
Well, in the sense of her character, Lenny.
Oh, Lenny, sure.
I grew up to be on Seinfeld. Like, she is a dry, kooky little fuck.
I was about to say, Lenny will say things at times that I'm like, whoa! That is cold.
Yeah.
But it's like I think that where I'm coming down on Lenny's personality trait is that Lenny don't take shit.
Yeah.
But like also, if she dislikes something, she's going to tell you.
What am I even saying? Spotlight on Gabby.
Yeah, Gabby's the best.
Girl. Yeah, right. I think I'm okay. Of all of them, Gabby is my favorite. I redact all my former statements. None of what I said existed. Gabby is the best. She's natural. She's funny.
Yeah.
I think she understands her coworkers suck at their job. And I also, this isn't so much about her character itself, but I do love the imagery that they use, how like Gabby and Alex have to share a room.
Yeah.
Because I think it also implies something about like socioeconomic levels and like struggle of the people in that neighborhood and everything, which is beautiful to bring to light and normalize and not make kids feel shitty for.
Yeah. Yeah. They never really like talk about it much, but you can tell that some of them are definitely on different income levels. Because like you said, Alex and Gabby, they live in their family store and they share, a bedroom. Lenny lives in the apartment above them. Jamal's family lives in a nice house, all their own. Looks like a brownstone type level. Yeah. So,
which you can kind of tell too. Like Jamal's definitely, I think, the best dressed as well.
Yeah. Although, okay.
And I don't know if that's an intentional choice or not.
Sure. Talking of dress, I do want to talk about something in just a second. But first, I will say that my top suspect for this story arc is Calvin. Like, this is really, even though it's the second episode he's been in, it's really his arrival moment. I will say, in my opinion, we don't get enough of Calvin in this series. I think that he is great, and I would have loved to see him like be like their common running villain. He is there a lot, but he's not used as often as I would like. But yeah, for that speech alone, with he just some great stuff.
My only like Rotten Tomatoes, I would give Calvin a 97%.
Sure.
My only thing is I want to know where his chaos and tendencies stem from.
Yeah.
Because like he has this doting mother. Yeah. He clearly is close to family. That's even half a continent away.
I think some of it is just because he's never been told his shit stinks.
But that
I'm not sure where that chaos agentness came from, but there's definite, because like, we'll see in further stories, he's straight up a supervillain. But yeah, there's definitely a, he definitely just thinks that he's the best at everything.
Well, my thought behind it is like, if he has no outside life experience that has caused him to be this way, and this is just who he is, and he is this narcissistic, then this is a great lesson for the children about how to spot sociopathic tendencies and how to deal with those people. And I think that is another great thing to add to the PBS roster. So thanks, guys.
All right. Well, real quick, do you have a rewind moment, a moment in the episode that just made you, that you really liked or made you go, wait, what?
So many, honestly. I mean, we beat it to death at this point, but like Calvin's monologue, I think, is the pivotal best moment in the whole 100 minutes.
Yeah. That's good.
But the rewind moments, you know what? I loved every time they focused on Janet just for the moment. And like how sinister, because like as soon as the opening scene happened, like I clocked Calvin. I was like, oh, that little fucker did it. And then they had this attitude within Janet where that was the first person I was like, all right, well, that's choice number 2. And even when Rob came on, I was like, if it's him, I don't think he's the main culprit. I think he's just like a helper of some sort, somebody wheeled in. He'd be the guy that they grab by the neck and he goes, I didn't do it. I don't know what's happening. And so Janet, I think, was played and written so well. Because she's the only one where I would be like, I am 95% sure it's Calvin. But that 5% is reserved for Janet because she is just a sneaky little thing.
They really do try to make her a red herring, which... Yeah. My only thing with that is that when you actually find out what's going on, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Because there are scenes where she's like, I'm going to teach you know who, which obviously she's talking about her sister. But then there is a scene where she says, I've put plans in motion. Now, you got to make sure not to tell anybody, because if anybody finds out, it'll ruin my chances of getting elected. I'm like, will it?
It'll ruin her chances because they would steal the idea. And then they
not
would
as
do
far along as she was at that point.
Yeah, but if you think of, let's put it into the terms of who she is, which is a black female in the early 90s, compared to running against 2 other white boys in the early 90s, and then an Indian girl. Like, she's got 2 things working against her. Indian chick had 2 things working. Well, she had 3 things working against her because she also had no fucking platform.
No
but,
clue.
There's a wonderful lesson that always says, like, and, through all of the times we've had recently with Black Lives Matter and, like, me talking to my friends that are black that have literally said from the beginning, they were taught they have to work twice as hard to get a quarter of much as what everybody else gets. And it's like, this is a wonderful example of that, about how for her, her plan was so perfect and so foolproof. It made it so much more important to keep under wraps because she had the golden ticket. And if anybody else had the golden ticket, it would erase all of her hard work.
And I mean, she was also within story, trying to prove herself to her sister because her sister had previously, been elected. And, we saw a scene where her sister was basically trying to tell her to do exactly what she did. And she's saying, no, I've got my own plan. Although with that whole storyline, it makes absolutely no sense that her campaign poster has a picture of her and her sister on it.
Yeah. A little bit.
All right. Well, was there anything else about that you wanted to say?
No. Okay. I mean, the nostalgia was just the clothing. I mean, if we're going to talk rewind moments, every single piece of clothing those people wore.
Okay. So, first of all, my rewind moment is the opening assembly because I watched that scene like 5 times and saw something new like every single time. It's insane. It's absolute insanity.
It's literally like the Harlem Shake. Like all those videos from 2013. Remember that? Like where we drop a beat and the lights go down and then they hit up on the beat and everybody's just chaos mode. Like, what is happening?
Jeez. Okay. But.
Oh, so when what's-his-face, Dinglehopper, Calvin's pawn, dresses up like the metalheads.
Oh, jeez.
That was fucking hilarious.
That poor kid is... Okay, I know I said that Jamal is a dork, but Jamal is a likable dork. Jeffrey is just a clueless, doesn't have a single idea of what is going on. That kid, he is also a bit of
He's
a dork.
pretty pawn.
Okay, so I do want to... So, talking about... we had several introductions in this episode. We had the introduction of Rob. We had the reintroduction of Calvin. But one of the most important introduction we had in this episode was the introduction of Lenny's hats. Lenny's hats. Okay, I swear, Lenny's hats are a character unto themselves. You were talking about the fashion in this show. To me, one of the most recognizable bits of fashion Lenny is always wearing. She wore in this story arc. Okay, only 4 episodes. She wore 6 different hats.
They just got bigger. Like, that's what was so startling. Yeah, okay. It's like, she's a 12-year-old child. Why are we putting her in her father's clothing?
Oh, so let's talk about these hats. Anyone who wants to can follow along with these photos on our Instagram at the Flying Cow Pod. Okay, I mean, you mentioned it earlier. She wears a series of berets. This first one we've got is just a nice little... Honestly, I will say, like, some of these she look really good on her. Some of them not so much. But, we start off with just a nice little black beret. She looks kind of like a revolutionary, whatever.
I highly appreciate the leather detailing around the brim. Yes. I think it's a nice variation. What I don't appreciate is how we've decided to plop it dead on her head and fluff it as if she's auditioning to be a toadstool on Mario.
Oh. All
Next.
Right. Okay. This is an interesting one because she is wearing... this is the early 90s. If you've ever seen Blossom... Blossom was constantly wearing hats. In fact, sometimes Lenny looks like Blossom's closet threw up. Yes. But she is wearing right now in this shot I believe it's traditionally worn by men, an African kifu hat. Mm-hmm. And there's actually an episode later on. Actually, I think it's the same episode where Jamal also wears this style of hat.
He does.
Yeah.
And it looks great on him.
Yeah, it really does. And I mean, I won't say that this hat looks bad on Lenny. I will say, you know, this is a style of hat that you would see a lot during the early 90s, and especially in depicting children in the inner city. They were traditionally worn by black kids, but she's definitely not the first white person I've seen wearing this style of hat.
In the series?
Well, just in general.
Got you.
I know that the kid in Sister Act 2 wore a Kifu. Am I saying that right? Kifu? Yeah, it's a kufi. I'm so sorry. A kufi cap. Yeah. I know that he wears a kufi cap, and I think that there's one other white girl that also wears a kufi cap.
What's interesting about them to me is like you typically see them on men as well. Yeah. And I know at this point in fashion too, like women were taking on bigger sizes of clothing, like
which you can see feminine. From this shot of Lenny. The jumper that she's wearing is a bit big for her. In fact, it's falling off half of her shoulder.
Everything was.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was like the style, you know, it was very I want to say dehumanizing. Like, we basically just put our bodies as best we could.
Sure.
I don't really know if they were implying anything by, like, mixing cultural fashion other than the fact that, like, maybe she swiped it off Jamal and that's just how close they are. And, you know, like, this is just how it is. Like, it's such a beautiful melting pot where she lives that nobody thinks twice when a tiny little European-looking girl has on a kufi. So... cool.
Yeah.
But I mean, it does make you go like, but did we choose the right colors?
Sure.
Also, does it kind of make you look like you're a sous chef?
I will say, though, this is very in keeping with her style. If you follow through, with the whole idea of her father being a musician and her being a musician, she dresses very bohemian. It's very much kind of a mix of things, often with colors. And I will say, while it's very eye-catching and the hats often are huge, it's a style that they stick with pretty well for the most part. This is the hat.
Oh, this is the next one. Okay.
This is the one that I want to talk about. Because it literally looks this is a style of hat. When I first saw it, I was like, it looks like the Gorton's Fisherman. I will say it's not the same style, but it does. This hat is huge. This hat looks like if they came to a body of water, she could throw it down, they could all step inside and be nice and toasty as they went across. It is insane.
Gonna say it looks like she's trying to be Paddington Bear, and I would also like to point out the fact that if they flip the brim down, this child cannot see, nor can she breathe. If she pops two little eyelets in this, she is pandemic 2020 ready.
I will say I'm pretty sure that I saw Blossom wearing this style of hat, but she had like a little flower on it, so it looked a little bit more stylish. This literally just looks like she robbed a dead fisherman.
Okay, in this one, she's also wearing a lot of pink and warm tones with this awful god-ass dusty blue fucking Paddington Bear hat.
Yeah.
Which makes me... Instantly, my thought was Paddington Bear meets Elle Woods when she first gets to Harvard.
Yeah, I will say this is definitely one of her looks that looks like the costuming people just grabbed a bunch of stuff and said, try this on.
Well, it kind of looks like, honey, are you cold? You look cold. Let's fix that. Because the two girls next to her, Gabby looks fucking awesome in her little orange hoodie dress with this cool-ass necklace and scrunchie and curly side hair, ponytail. Love it. And then, forget her name.
Tina.
It's okay. Tina. God damn it. Okay, Tina also looks great. So I don't know who decided to fuck over Lenny, if she mouthed off at somebody in the wardrobe room, but like... not your best.
But see, okay, once again, I will say, of these looks, Gabby and Tina, I could see, especially Gabby, I could see kids wearing this today.
Yes.
Tina, I'm not sure about the collar. That's the only thing. But if a kid walked in wearing what Lenny's wearing, you'd be afraid they were homeless.
I would think they were stealing something. Like, if you walked into a retail store and you had this on, I'm shaking you down. Like, there are too many layers. What are you trying to hide? Let's see what's next.
All right, let's see. Oh, that's right. These are all in the wrong order.
Red beret.
Oh, no. Okay, that's right. This is the red beret, which is basically the exact same style as the earlier beret, but now it's red.
Fantastic. Love the red, love the spice. I still feel like there's a little mouse inside her head controlling her every movement.
Okay. This is probably the most ordinary of all of her hats. It's just like a knit beanie.
It's like a weird skull cap, though. Yeah. Like, it's not even a nice beanie. It's literally like, come, child, we are going to wander into the wilderness in December in Russia. Let us be warm. Also, let's talk about that they paired this with a thick, because there is some height difference compared to her undershirt and her vest. There is a thick fucking, it looks like it's made of upholstery fabric, cheetah print vest.
Cheetah vest, yes.
God bless. I'm sure this kid was sweating if she was not freezing.
I mean, they are in New York. I'm not sure, what time of year that they're filming, but yeah.
Yeah, but like that, they look like they ripped up a shag carpet and said, "Come, child," and just went, "You are adorned. Go."
All right, let's see if I can find. Okay, here's the last hat.
Oh, this is the one.
The giant green beret that, yes, does look like it could eat her head.
I mean, she looks like if she's not about to go into surgery, she might also be about to ascend some scaffolding to paint a cathedral in 15th century Italy.
It looks very artisty. I will point out that she is also wearing what looks like a green smock with a bow on it. Very green, this outfit.
Yes, we went very monochromatic. However, Jamal, I like whatever shirt he's got on. It kind of looks like a map, but it kind of also looks like a Hawaiian t-shirt. I don't know,
it's got starfish and some conch shells on it.
Somewhere in there. I thought one was an island until I saw the starfish.
Sure. Let me see if I can find... I think I had one of her standing in that hat. Okay, yeah. So she's got like a jean short bottom going on. Is that leggings she's wearing underneath?
Yes, okay. I caught that. And at first I was like, wow, some tight knee boots with your jorts? Okay. And then I was looking at like how she was walking in that scene and I was like, wow. That is the most seizure-inducing pair of leggings I've ever seen on a human body.
Yeah, they're very psychedelic. They're like, I don't know, almost like a cowboy print.
I mean,
it's kind of hard to tell from this pic.
Because of how the light is hitting them as well, it almost looks like she probably also had on green tights and they accidentally green screened them with an image that's just not there.
All right, now this has mostly been about Lenny and her hats, but I do want to point out in this shot we get a shot of Rob in his headgear, which is some sort of like a bandana on his head. I mean, I will say it's typical. It was definitely something I saw a lot in that era, but in the first one he was wearing blue, in the second one he's wearing red. I'm just saying he might want to be careful of what area he's walking.
I was going to mention, too, when I was doing, like, production research, evidently somebody cited at one point that at some episode, the kids even, like, address gang issues.
Yeah, there is an episode. Like, and it actually evolves around Rob. I don't remember what color do-rag he was wearing that day, but...
He's wearing all these bandanas.
Yeah.
He's going to get hooked up.
All right. Well, I think that is about it. So there are two last questions that I do want to ask you. First of all, if Ghostwriter were real and he wrote to you, would you write back And if you did, what would you say?
I think after I cleaned the piss off the floor, I would scramble for any. Firstly, I don't think I would know what to do if, Microsoft Word art letters just appeared wiggling in my face. Or if, as I'm eating my alphabet Cheerios or whatever, my alphabets, I think they were called, if they became words, I think I would go, what? Did I put milk? Was it spoiled? I think, hopefully, Ghostwriter also exists in this narrative, and I will know what to do. Yes, I would 100% write back. And then I like to think that I would get a hot beverage and we would have conversation for a while.
Well, you'd have to write it because he can't hear you.
Right. But, written correspondences.
Yeah. You can get your official Ghostwriter pen, which equals a pen on a string.
I think I would also, because I looked up what he or she, I don't remember the gender, but what Ghostwriter is, I think I would then ask them many a question about their experience. Vague.
Okay, well, with that, normally at this point, I would then ask you what you think Ghostwriter is, but since you know...
I will tell you what I've speculated before I looked it up.
I mean, okay, so what was your speculation before you looked it up?
First thought was alien. I was really hoping for alien, something supernatural. And to me, at this point, because, it's like the dawn of the age of the internet, technology, communication was a huge thing. I was going for alien thing that was attempting to make contact, and then maybe he got a little sidetracked and he really developed a heart for these kids, and all of his little alien buddies were like, dude, stop, come back, and he's like, no, I'm gonna stay on Earth a while, kind of pull like a Steven Universe if you watch that series, like just stay on Earth and just like help.
Sure. Okay. Now, real
that tells
quick,
me you did not watch Steven Universe.
No, I know what it is, but I haven't watched it.
There are many podcasts about Steven Universe. It's one of the most beautiful progressive cartoons of our time.
I've heard great things. I just haven't, gotten around to it.
Delve, my friend.
Yeah. Okay, so with that being said, I do want to double check that you got the same information. So, in your reading, what did you find out that Ghostwriter was? Ghostwriter! What was your reaction when you first read that?
It hit me so hard, and it makes me so upset that we didn't have that in our culture, like in our narrative so much sooner.
Yeah.
Because that impact is so intense.
Yeah. So, real quick, I want to give everyone the opportunity to get into contact with us. And it's real easy. I am at the Flying Cow Pod everywhere. The Flying Cow Pod at gmail.com. I am at the Flying Cow Pod on Twitter and Instagram. And I will be posting the pictures of Lenny's hats with some commentary on Instagram. Be sure to check those out. And without further ado, Allie, I want to give you the opportunity to let us know anything that you're doing, but also if you want to, talk about anything that you're enjoying right now, and anything that emphasizes the voices of women or people of color is encouraged.
Yes. So, oh God, as soon as you spoke, I don't know why I forgot everything I was supposed to say. Things that I am enjoying, though. I just finished the last season of The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel on Amazon Prime. Please watch that. I also invested in BritBox. which is essentially BBC Netflix, and have made my way through so many amazing shows on there that if British people heard me talking, it would be the equivalent of like somebody in rural Africa being like, I have just heard about this new great series called Friends. Like, there's this show called Gavin and Stacey that
I love Gavin and Stacey.
Oh, so good.
Did you just start watching it?
Yeah, I binged all of it. I finished in like a weekend.
Did you get to see the new Christmas special that they did?
Oh, I did all of it.
Oh, good.
Yes.
The most recent one they did just this year?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I need to know more. But also,
I know.
Nevermind the Sunset is a series with John Cleese. It's amazing.
Huh.
On Netflix, you can watch a show called The Last Tango in Halifax. That is so beautiful. One part love story, one part dark comedy, one part tragedy. Just my favorite flavors. And then Umbrella Academy 2.
Okay.
I'm about to start, and I am so excited.
Yeah. I haven't watched any of it yet. I have heard great things. I just, haven't gotten around to it.
Absolutely amazing.
Nice.
So good. And yeah.
Do you have any?
What was the other questions?
Do you have any of your own plugs? Anything that you're working on right now, or your own podcasts?
You can hear me weekly on the podcast Barely Audible Whisper. It's an NPR-style parody podcast. And we have been covering everything that the great orange leader has been saying and all the hilarity that exists. Please take a listen to that. It's wherever podcasts are sold, given out for free. And of course, I'm always doing voiceover work. So you can find me at allieglonek.com.
Very nice, very nice. The only thing that I would like to add to that is, during this time I've kind of been catching up on a lot of movies, and one that I saw the other day that I just really, really enjoyed. It's tough. It's a tough watch, but it's really good. The Hate You Give. Which is basically about a girl who is, she lives in a black neighborhood, but she goes to a white school. She's kind of divided between the two worlds. And then a black friend of hers gets killed by a cop right in front of her. And it's just kind of like about her dealing with that, and also kind of seeing how her white friends are dealing with that and how everyone else is dealing. And it's a really good film, especially for the things that are happening right now. I've suggested so far, also Do the Right Thing, which is a very similar idea, although it's a little bit more... This is a little bit more upfront and presentational, whereas Do the Right Thing is a bit more abstract.
Gotcha.
So they're both great movies. I will say The Hate You Give is a little easier to find. I know it's for free on HBO Max right now. I think it's also free on Hulu, and I think it was on Amazon for a little while as well. But anyway, you can find that. That's a great film to check out. But yes, let's see. Okay, so next time we will be back with the Ghostwriter team trying to make their own comic book. Won't that be exciting? But yes, join us for that story arc into the comics next time. But in the meantime, I would like to leave you all with just a little present from Alex Fernandez. Enjoy.
I hear it's your birthday. A boom diddy do. So here's a rap. We wrote for you. Lenny is cool and she's no fool. She's the slickest ghostwriter to remember.
Give me a break.
That's not good enough, Alex.